Connected هسه. تمام. Okay, good afternoon. Are you with me this time? You there? Anybody there?
Yes.
I just want to check if there are any audience to this lecture. Are there anyone there?
Yes.
No? Hmm?
Yes, you are
Say yes. You hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
You all hear me? Are you there?
Yes.
Yes.
Sufyan, مؤيد حمد النيل.
Yes, يا بروف سامعينك.
Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, if you are disconnected for any reason, please send a message to me in the phone, or send it to Arwa, who is just sitting beside me now here. And we hope this lecture will go on as scheduled, not like the previous one. It's okay? Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. This lecture is again, we start from the start. It's on onchocerciasis, a chronic disease, which is really chronic, because if the adult worm develop in the human body, it lasts for a lifespan of 15 years, ushering and sending microflaria. So it's a disease which is so chronic that it affects life in all aspects of life, economical, social, and obviously morbidity. It's, as we said last time, it's caused by a parasite, a nematode, and it is transmitted by a vector. And the vector is an active vector which takes the worm and develop it from larvae 1 to larvae 3 to re-inject it in the human body. And as we mentioned in Philopotamus babatasi, which is the vector for Kala-Azar or visceral leishmaniasis, the female fly is the one who is responsible of transmitting the disease, simply because it sucks blood to achieve the nutrition of the eggs and eggs laying. So the male is benign in that state, but the female is the one who is responsible. The nematodes are a very large group of organisms. These are worms, and there is at least 2,000 of them in the world, in different ages, different plants, different soil. And one we know best is intestinal helminthasis or intestinal worms, round worms, that's the Ascaris lumbricoides and hookworm. The filarial parasites are also nematodes, and we know about 7 of them which are important to human morbidity and mortality. The famous 3 is Wuchereria bancrofti, Wuchereria bancrofti, which is WUCHR Escherichia bancrofti, Gruyia malaya, and these are responsible for development of hepatic filariasis or elephant. And the third of importance is onchocerciasis, which again is the nematode that inhabits man. And the fly is the black fly, which is a small fly called Simulium damnosum. Simulium damnosum. Other species, Simulium nevei, N-A-V-E-I, nevei. But in our areas, savanna areas, Sudan is included in the savanna areas, it is Simulium damnosum. So the environment is important, and this fly lives in fast-running fresh water. They hide themselves in the rocks, in the water, or in the river, and in vegetations and rocks, and they hide themselves there because the fast flow of water create an oxygen environment beneath the water, which is highly needed for the development of the fly and for egg laying and for production of its larvae, which will then fly out into the environment and do whatever harm it can do. So the onchocerciasis being a chronic illness, if somebody is bitten today by a fly, they develop symptoms in 1 year. And once it is developed, it can continue for 15 years. So the form which is available in human being or which is seen in the human being is the adult worm, which is encapsulated in connective tissue subcutaneous to adult male and female, okay, nodules. These nodules which contain the adult worms are found in the pelvis, in bony provinces, ribs, and in South America, it is found in Guatemala in the head, these nodules. So it's that is the adult worm. And then the microarraria, this is called larva from the adult worm, goes in the skin and causes what it can cause of morbidity. The pathology of onchocerciasis is totally done by the microfilariae, and it is totally done by dead microfilariae. So microfilariae dying causes the pathology. If the microfilariae is living, going around, we'll have some itching, some changes, but minimal changes unless the microfilariae dies. So whatever kills the microfilariae can excite and can invite a lot of reaction. The female worm or nematode measures 70 centimeters, and the poor male measures only 4 centimeters. So there is no gender equality here or gender equity. Anyway, I mean, maybe that the worm need all these lengths to be active to produce microfilariae in thousands. And you could have more than one nodule all over the body, ushering microfilariae, which travels in the skin, and more dangerously, it can cross the eye. This is causing blindness, hence the name of onchocerciasis as blindness, which is river blindness, and that is a common name. In our country, there is, before the separation of the South, there is a river called Jur River, J-U-R, Jur River, which goes across Wau in Bahr al-Ghazal region. It's the capital of Bahr al-Ghazal region. And this is one of the highest endemicity of onchocerciasis. Hence, the disease is also called in Sudan and in other places as Jur blindness relating to the river. So the disease is river related. It's totally river related. And when you are on the shores of the river, this is the highest endemicity. And as you go further and further, then the disease becomes less prominent or less endemic. And we can talk about endemicity of the disease in three terms. Term one, those who are near the river will have hyperendemicity. Those who are living in that region will have hyperendemicity. And as you go further away, you get mesoendemicity, which is moderate severity, and then the hypoendemicity. The WHO has marked the countries of hyperendemic, mesoendemic, and hypoendemic. It is very clear that those who are living in hyperendemic and mesoendemic are the most likely to get health problems. This is what we call health concern. And the hypoendemic is of less importance as far as control is concerned, because it's not going to be manifesting in a lot of disease. And at any rate, if you control the hyperendemic and the mesoendemic, the tail end of the hyperendemic will be affected positively with disappearance of the worm. The disease, the disease is prevalent 95% of it in Africa. You remember when we talked about tropical area, it is around the equator. You have the Capricorn level 23 degrees above and below the Cancer level. So this area, which is within the 23 north and 23 south, is the area for tropical disease. The disease is prevalent in at least 30 countries, with mesoendemic or hyperendemic in Africa. So all our talk now is going to concentrate on Africa, because this is the burden of the disease. There is one foci, which in the Arab country is in Yemen. And this focus in Yemen is very much like the focus in Abu Hamad in Sudan. The disease is very prevalent in South Sudan, in Bahr al-Ghazal region. And we used to visit Raja, which is a nice city, small city in Bahr al-Ghazal region. And at one survey, we could find that almost all people, 90% of people, have had or had onchocerciasis with a major problem of blindness. And this was an area, hot area, which the program of African program of control of onchocerciasis was took note of it and was supplying the drug to control the disease. So the after injecting the larvae, it takes about 10 days in the fly to develop into second and third larvae. And the third larva will be ready in 10 days to be re-injected in a human being. The time taken from the development of the adult worm and the what we call the pregnancy period, about a year. So it's very long chronic illness. 1 year since the injection to get symptoms, and 1 year for the worm to usher the microflaria, and then you are infected. And if you are infected, you become infected either heavily or mild according to the number of nodules in the body. So it's very important to remember that skin and eyes, these are the ones. We don't find any other pathology in other places. And man is the only human, is the only animal or only subject which is affected by onchocerciasis. So our concern about man, if we prevent him or treat him, and we concern about the fly. Maybe that Dr. Noma told you about the fly, which is a small fly called black fly, which is black. And it is small to the extent that it only looks like 1/4 of the house fly, the baba. So it's a small but very strong one. Unlike, if you remember, in Kala-Azar visceral leishmaniasis, we talked about Phlebotomus baphatasi as a delicate fly. It doesn't fly up and it doesn't fly long, and it's usually lazy, almost in its breeding place. But this fly, Simulium damnosum, is something different. It goes from the river and it flies with good wind up to 500 kilometers away. But because the concentration is not that much of the fly, the disease is only around the rivers and in the area beyond the rivers. What happens if the microfilariae flood the skin and goes into the eye? This is the pathology. Okay. The start with is itching. If you forget anything about clinical features of onchocercitis, just remember itching. Itching is the major problem, major symptom of onchocercitis. And itching because of the disease, and maybe itching because of the treatment, and we'll come to that. Okay, so itching is start with papules in the skin, and then you get into more aggressive dermatitis, sclerosing dermatitis, and then the skin becomes so rough. And in some areas, like in the shin, the skin gets depigmented. Depigmented. It looks like the vitiligo, what is called leopard skin. Leopard skin. And the skin becomes so rough that it looks like a leather skin, like a leather skin. So the skin becomes so bad, it becomes pigmented. And as far as the immunity is concerned, in certain areas, the immunity is very strong, then you get more dermatitis. So it is dermatitis of all types. And in some areas, the skin loses the elasticity and becomes weak, paper-like, like what we said last time, hanging groins, because these are the ones. The Onchocerca volvulus, I send you some pictures about the volvulus nature of the parasite. Remember, in surgery, we have volvulus skin, which lead to intestinal obstruction. Here, because the worm is rounded, the worm is volvulus. But the adult worm causes no harm, only the baby worm, which is the microfilarium. So the skin becomes so rough. And the consequences of that, the human being is almost made ideal, because with skin itching and rough skin, you can imagine in females, they become non-attractive. In males, they become itchy all the time. They cannot even converse or run a conversation for 5 minutes without getting itching. And if they go to the field, in less than half an hour, 1 hour with the heat, become so itchy, they need to come under the shade to scratch. So socially, it's a stigma. Okay. And many reports on social studies of onchocercitis, the impact of social studies, that women has to be divorced, they run away from them, and they cannot even do their housework because of the itching, because of the stigma. And men have stopped work. And because of onchocercitis, millions of acres have been abandoned because of blindness. We can reckon that in the 30 countries, there is at least 30 million people who are at risk. When we call at risk, meaning they can get the disease anytime. This is not the disease population, but these are at risk. And we can reckon in the last 10 years or so, before the control, at least 500,000 of people lost their sight. So it's a devastating disease, and it's a silly cause of going blind. I mean, if you go blind because of glaucoma, cataract because of age, even diabetes, it's partially accepted. But if you go blind because of a parasite, which can be controlled, I think that is a waste of human life. So this is why as we're going to talk about ivermectin, those who discover ivermectin are Nobel Prize winners because they have changed the life of more than 30 million people. We talk about um, the treatment in a sense that there is evolution. And maybe that some of my talk here about the disease and severity and spread is slightly backward because this is what we had at 10 years ago. But now with the control of onchocerciasis, then we're having areas which are completely clear because of the control program. So we are lucky in living in an era where control of such a bad disease is manageable and under control. So how would we recognize the disease? Let us do first the eye. The eye is affected in almost all chambers, okay? The microflora goes in the eye and die, the microfilariae die, and once they die, they cause a reaction. If they don't die, they can go from the eye outside into the skin and so forth and so, but they don't cause any pathology, just like the skin. The pathology is mainly done by the dead microfilariae. If the microfilariae are alive, then there is no problem or very little problem. But once they die, they cause problems. So if the microfilariae is killed by a drug or dies spontaneously, then the reaction is very severe in the eye. And simply, you can remember that every aspect, every chamber of the eye is affected. If you start from the start, you get conjunctivitis, red conjunctivitis, and you get watery eye, and then in the cornea, you get snowflakes like fluffy opacities. These, to start with, do not impede transmission of light, so they are not a cause of blindness at that stage. But if they continue, more microfilariae die in the eye, then you get keratitis, and that is bad. And if you get sclerosing keratitis, then you are entering in the face, especially in the lower part. This is where it selects the area. Then this is opacity. And then the cornea, because the microfilariae goes in the subendothelial part of the cornea, and that invites panas and invites vessels to get into the cornea. And the cornea is a transparent structure. It doesn't get supplied by blood. It only gets supplied by glucose in the tears. So this is what keeps it transparent. So if you develop vessels or if you have a panas, then that is opacification of the cornea, and that is one reason of going blind. If you go inside, the iris loses pigment and iridocyclitis occurs, and then the pupil gets distorted and it has a pear shape like this. It has a pear shape like an inverted pyramid, and the posterior synechia will develop leading to glaucoma. So you have a reason to get glaucoma, you have a reason to get opacification of the lens of the cornea, and you have a cataract, development of cataract. So it's all causes of blindness. And then when you go to the retina, you get depigmentation, and the retina becomes exposed, and underneath sclerosing vessels will develop and optic atrophy can occur. So this is a devastating disease which can cause blindness by any part of this or all of it. So, and it is very distressing going into villages, seeing 4 or 5 people, everybody is holding a stick, and only one little child who is leading all the five because they are short of children leading the blind. So it is a cause of blindness, which is very uh, uh, very. If you go into a village and see that, it is emotional. The idea of control, which is OCP, the Onchocerciasis Control Program of West Africa, and that is involves 11 countries. It is all started by a visit by the director or the CEO of the World Bank, McNamara, and he wanted to give Africa loans to cultivate the land. And when he came with the airplane, he saw millions of acres, very green, but no village. And he asked, what is the problem? And they told them that there is a fly, a black fly, which leads to a very severe itching and blindness. This is why the villagers have deserted their land. And he said, well, instead of giving them money to cultivate or to eat, then we should control the disease itself. And this is what happened, and this is what is termed the OCP program in West Africa, using insecticide in the rivers, what is called Temophos, which is an insecticide, abate, commercial name is abate, and it has a very large effect with land being recaptured. And we use the word recaptured because the land was hijacked by the fly and by the disease. Now it is recaptured, and people went back to its original land to cultivate it. Okay, how would we assess the disease in a community? Okay, there is what we call rapid epidemiological mapping. REMO, 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 rapid epidemiological mapping. And this depends on the presence of nodules. Obviously, the nodules are firm in the bony prominences. They are non-tender and non-caseating. The only thing, you don't mix them with lymph nodes. Otherwise, if you feel one, you can recognize it when you feel it again. Okay, in an area, the rapid epidemiological mapping, we go to an area and then palpate from up down and feel if there is any nodule which is confirmed, which is thought to be a nodule of onchocerciasis, then that is a positive. Take 50 and you see how many positive, and then you can get a rate. This is a quick rate for applying mass chemotherapy because you don't need to go and do the skin snip and all the test of it. It's just mass chemotherapy, and I will talk in a minute about mass chemotherapy. So that's one area of quick diagnosis, the rapid field diagnosis. The diagnosis, obviously, of the disease dependent on the clinical picture, which we describe, and the proof of the pudding in the eating. It's if you find a microflare, you take a skin snip, and then you put it saline and look under the microscope, then you feel the wriggling of the microflare. It is very easy to see it's wriggling. So that is a proof. That is definitely a proof. Beyond doubt, this is onchocerciasis. What are the other tests? There is an antibody serology called OV from ovulus, OV16, which is an antibody which can be found in areas with onchocerciasis, may be positive, but it will not disappear after treatment. But so it's a survey of presence of onchocerciasis in the area, and it can be useful after treatment, after some time after treatment. If you give a drug called diethyl carbamazine, which is DEC, it's called DEC, very famous drug. This drug is a very strong microfluorescent. very strong. It kills the microfilariae like hell. So why don't we use it? We don't use it because it causes blindness, because so strong killing microfilariae in the eye that the end result is not beneficial. It causes damage to the eye. And this has been reported from the Sudan. Has been reported from Sudan, and the drug is being labeled as a blinding drug, although it can kill the microfilariae efficiently. And it is contraindicated use in Africa because in Africa there is onchocerciasis, and the drug is also used for lymphatic filariasis, which is a very effective drug in lymphatic filariasis, but we don't allow it to be used in areas where there is onco because a small dose of it may cause death of microfilariae in the eye and cause blindness. The nodule can be taken if you take the nodule out. And some people advocate taking nodules out because this will reduce the load of the other 12. Okay, but not in all cases. It needs surgery, it needs very clean area, it needs HIV/AIDS negative, and all the rest of it. So it's if you can take the nodules, then you reduce the load. But some of the nodules are deep; you cannot take all the nodules. So the test which we have been using is called Mazzotti reaction. Mazzotti, Mazzotis, Mazzotti's reaction. And Mazzotti, what he did is he gave diethyl carbamazine, small dose, like 50 microgram, 50 milligram. And if there is, are we still there? Boys and girls?
Yes,
Nobody there?
we can
Ala
hear you.
Amir,
Yes.
Muhammad Al-Sadiq, Muhammad Ahmed.
ما في صوت.
سامعين؟
أيوة كده سامعين.
كده سامعين لحد المازوت رياكشن سامعين كنتوا؟
أيوة.
ها؟ صوتك عالي؟
أيوة لحد
المازوت
الأزوت reaction.
سمعتوها؟
أيوة.
طيب okay, so this is a test. If you give small dose of DEC, then you can get test itching, and this is an indirect way of proving that this is onchocerciasis. But even this, now it is not done because it can cause death of microfilariae in the eye, not causes blindness, and because there are better ways of diagnosis. So it's important that the diagnosis is being made, okay, and then treatment. There are two channels for treatment: the clinical-based treatment, and the mass treatment, the mass chemotherapy. All right. I'm sure Noma have told you about the program called African Program for Onchocerciasis Control, which dependent on the wonder drug of ivermectin. I call it wonder drug because we come to it. It's a drug which have revolutionized our thinking about onchocerciasis and about control and even elimination of onchocerciasis. So the two ways of treatment. All drugs are diethyl carbamazine, which, as I said, microfluoroside is a strong one, but it's not used, and a drug called suramine, suramine, R-A-M-I-N-E, and it is an adult side of the drug. It causes macrofilaricidal. So suramine, but suramine is very toxic. It's very toxic. We used to use it Again, it causes both macro and micro. So it's not used. It is still being used in trypanosomiasis and other which cannot find a way out in their treatment. So as far as oncocercitis was as a macrocycle, but nowadays it's no longer used. So we rest by and large on one drug, which is ivermectin. There is very important research which has been done in the world, which has found that there is a rod-like bacteria, and this rod-like bacteria is called Wolbachia, ACHIA, Wolbachia, and it is found in abundance. And later research has found that this bacteria is endosymbiotic with the nematode. Symbiosis is a phenomenon if two organisms are dependent on vitality on each other, or if their survival depends on each other, we call them symbiotic. And in our body, you remember lactobacillus and bacteroids in the colon are doing good for us and we are doing good for the bacteria. And these are the commensals, which can even produce vitamin necessary for the human being. So the Wolbachia is an endosymbiotic with the worm. So this is an important piece of research, because if we kill the Wolbachia, we have a chance of killing the other, or the nematodes or the worm. Okay, and certainly if I kill the worm, then the Wolbachia will disappear. Okay, and the test was clinical trials were done. Wolbachia is responsive to doxycycline, about 200 milligrams doxycycline in 8 or 4 weeks. Okay, it's a long way. But the proof was that the bacteria died with 60% of the worms also died. And the rest of the worms, which has not, extinguished, they lost their ability to embryogenesis. So they stopped producing. But this doxycycline is not a drug. It causes renal problems. And in the field, Africa, it can cause teratogenicity, pregnant ladies. Okay, and in Africa, we never know who is pregnant and who is not pregnant. These are people living naturally. They get pregnant when they don't know it, and they continues with it. So when you have a mass chemotherapy in a village, they'll ask if the lady is pregnant. They say, well, no, or we don't know. So giving doxycycline, dishing doxycycline like this is not good. To my mind, is up to now is not on as a therapy. But it proves one point, that the Wolbachia, if you can get an easy drug to kill Wolbachia, then we are on the second drug for onchocerciasis. So this is the Wolbachia business, which is important. The pathology as it stands is not reversible, but the itching can stop. The itching can stop, and there is amelioration of the skin, okay? Especially if you look after it, all right? But the changes which has been done are very little change can occur after treatment. The action of the skin, earlier, it's almost totally dependent on the death of the microfilariae and the reaction of the body. The more you react immunologically against the death of the microfilariae, the more skin problems you will get. You'll get more itching, you get deformity and feeling of skin, okay, because your immunity, okay. There is a special type of onchocerciasis and it is restricted certain areas. One of them is Abu Hamad region in North Sudan and in Yemen. What happens here? The microthread in particular arm or limb, then it gets intense discoloration and intense dermatitis, and because of the fair color of the Yemenis, is localized and called soda. Soda is from soup, okay, with black. And this type of onchocerciasis is purely skin, purely skinless, but the itching is severe. You still there? Khidr, Isra.
Yes, we are still there.
Okay. So this is soda, which is in Abu Hamad region. I can't pass the area of research in onchocerciasis, talking about Wolbachia, talking about Surami, and there is a senior researcher called Ahmed Sharif, he's a Sudanese, who have been researching in the area of Wau, in the Jur area, with Professor El Hadi Sheikh, he's an ophthalmologist. These are pioneers in research of onchocerciasis, and then the other team came after that. Sudan, as I said in the Visceral Leishmaniasis, Sudan stands up with pride on the research of onchocerciasis. It is the Sudanese, with the help of other workers from America, who wrote the idea of diacylcarbamazine as a blinding drug. And many of the descriptions of onchocerciasis is being done by the Sudanese. And if you go to the literature, you can find a lot of reference to Sudanese scientists who have contributed a lot to the understanding of onchocerciasis. One test which has been developed by Sudanese is visualization of nodules by ultrasound. The visualization of nodules by the ultrasound. It's time gone when we were interested in onchocerciasis. The idea came to us about how would we use ultrasound, and that is very early in the 80s, 82, 83, when the first machine of ultrasound was introduced in Sudan. We thought of doing the sonographic examination of a nodule. The unfortunate thing, if you remember the nodule like this, and the transducer is like that, then there is air under the transducer. So with air, you cannot visualize by ultrasound. So you have to eliminate the air. Okay. So ultrasound is it goes through water, but it can't go through air, and the reflection of the sound will come back. What we did is we get a bag of fluid, and we put it on the nodule, and then we scanned over the water, and then there was beautiful visualization of the worm, to the extent that you can even see the adult worm. Very good visualization of the nodule with ability to see the worm. And this method has been developed. Now it is recognized by all workers in the field. At ultrasound, with the machines now improving, you can see the wriggling of the worm by ultrasound. And it's being used to assess drugs. If the wriggling is so much, then the drug is less effective. If it dies out, it can be seen with the ultrasound. So this is the work of Sudanese who have contributed a lot to the onchocerciasis. Just to remind you that onchocerciasis is in Abu Hamad region, and now with great pride, onchocerciasis in Abu Hamad is eliminated, because there is a lot of effort which has been done distributing ivermectin. There is area called Sundus in southeast of Gadarif along the Adbara River. And as we said, Onchocerciasis is about rivers, about Adbara River. Then that's an area which just cross border with Matamma in Ethiopia. These are one focus, and this is mainly dermatological onchocerciasis. There is area in Khoria-Abous in the Mazin area, and in Radom area in Darfur, and in the line goes from Radom to Kafé Kingi along the border of Central African Republic. So these are the area in Sudan, and we lost south, but onchocerciasis is largely prevalent in almost all the south apart from Upper Nile. In Bahr al-Ghazal region, it's hyper-endemic. Even in Equatoria, that is there. And we have done extensive work and extensive treatment in the south with ivermectin. Okay, that is as far as the research is concerned about onchocerciasis. And I would like you, like youngsters, always to remember that there are those who passed pioneering, or those who are alive, but these are your fathers and grandfathers who have done a lot in research of the disease and other diseases as well. So it's important to have that in mind. Okay, what happened in the world as far as onchocerciasis after the introduction of ivermectin? The African Program of Onchocerciasis Control, APOC, and happily to mention that the headquarters of APOC was in the Academy of Medical Sciences. The UMST of today used to be called Academy AMST, or Academy of Medical Science AMST, AMST. It used to be there. And it was delegated by the Ministry of Health and the international world. Jimmy Carter has contributed a lot to this control of onchocerciasis in Sudan. And so all the facilities of the program, which worked all over the Sudan, was in the AMST. So this is something history. And previous batches, like batch 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, used to be involved heavily in the research of onchocerciasis and the control. People used to travel to Wau, to Juba, to help in the program. So that is the essence of control, and I'm very feeling proud that at least in some areas now the disease is being eliminated, like Abu Hamad region. Okay, and Sundus area in Gadarif area again, through mass treatment, the disease is now less and less, almost eliminated in these two foci. As far as the world is concerned, the disease is no longer a health problem. Okay, still there, but it's no longer a blinding disease, no longer a blinding, because it's being well controlled. There are a few foci which still people are suffering, but in the majority, because now the program is distributing ivermectin for almost 20 years or 25 years. So, and we need to distribute ivermectin for more than 15 years, or just 15 years. You remember, we said that the adult worm lives for 15 years. So if I distribute for 15 years, it dies spontaneously. That is the age. Okay, that is the age. So if I give ivermectin, which is only microfluorocide, it only kills the baby, but the adult worm is not affected. It lives, but it used to produce microflora. But if I give ivermectin, clear the microflora, no pathology. But the adult worm will be still there. Okay? Ivermectin in a big dose will affect the embryogenesis of the adult worm, but it doesn't kill it. So we need to distribute for 15 years till the adult worm dies spontaneously or because of age. So in many parts of Africa nowadays, the disease is reaching a level which is comfortable. And in certain areas like Mali, Senegal, and Mali, the disease has been eliminated, just like Abu Hamad region and Sundus area. Okay, I would like to end with ivermectin. This is a drug which is tells a story, about how research can help and how research can save life. Uh, Ivermectin is a drug which was discovered in 1975. There are two people who are responsible of its discovery. There is a Japanese called Satoshi Umura, a Japanese microbiologist who is fond of producing culture from bacteria and producing mass of bacteria and extracting the products from the bacteria. Okay, just like the fungus of penicillin, you remember penicillium, which was a fungus. It used to produce penicillium, and then it was developed into penicillin. That was done by Fleming. So the Satoshi Umura produced a lot of bacteria streptomyces, and then he extracted a substance which he called avermectin. Avermectin starts with A. The drug starts with I. So it is ivermectin, which is the big group, which was taken by somebody who is a parasitologist in America called William Campbell. And then he started refining the ivermectin till he came out with a very good drug for veterinary use. So it's being used extensively in animals, in cattle, for what we call heartworm. There is a worm in the heart of the cattle which kills the cattle and reduces productivity, and for nematodes of the cattle. And it sold like hell. It was a good drug. The company made a lot of fortune out of it. The company is Merck. And I'm mentioning the Merck here because Merck did another good job of donating the human drug for free. So the worst being mentioned here. So the drug for veterinary continued till 1980s, in the 80s. And then he thought of refining the drug more and coming out with a substance which can kill the worm onchocerciasis. Up to that time, there is no treatment. People started research in the 50s, and for 30 years or 35 years, they are just seeing the people dying, not dying, they are disfigured and blind, and nothing we can do about it because the two drugs, suramine and diacylcarbamide, are very toxic. So he refined that drug and he came out with ivermectin. I call it a wonder drug because it's a drug which is given orally. A tablet is either 3 milligrams or 6 milligrams, and the dose per person is 150 microgram per kilogram body weight. Okay? What it does is it kills the microflora. But you remember we said, if you kill the microflora, you invite reaction. So how does it do it? It's up to now not very clear, but the killing is so gentle that it causes minimum itching. It does cause itching, but not very severe. So it's a drug which is handled by the body in a good way, maybe that it stimulates immunity and kill the microflaria in steps. And what about the eye? What it does in the eye is the microflaria is driven out of the eye. By what mechanism is not clear, but the microflaria is driven out of the eye and then get killed. So the eye is spared. The eye is spared from the early microflarial killing, like in the DEC, which is diethylcarbamazine. So this, you remember during the COVID-19, ivermectin was mentioned as a treatment for coronavirus, but it didn't stand that test, so we don't believe that it has that. But ivermectin is a drug, apart from being the drug of choice in onchocerciasis. It's very good in nematodes like Ascaris, but to a lesser extent than albendazole. Albendazole is a better drug for Ascaris. The ivermectin is used with DEC in lymphatic filariasis, not on onchocerciasis. So in India, for instance, we can give DEC, all right, and ivermectin, and that will also control lymphatic filariasis. Scabies. Ivermectin is very good for scabies, being given orally. I have tested it in the field in Jazeera. We had an epidemic of scabies. Everybody was itching. Scabies is the parasite, it's like almost a fly or something. It's in the skin, and it causes pustular eruption and intense itching. And the itching will spread the disease, because once you open it up, you have the eggs, and then you spread it to other areas, and it continues in a village. So we gave the village mass chemotherapy of ivermectin, and in a few days, people improved, and it's gone. So in scabies, still is very good. And in the South, we used to note that the people are very clever. When we say that ivermectin, this one is expired, they take it and they crush it and they put it in white ants, al-arda, and they kill the white ants. Okay, so that is ivermectin as far as its therapeutic use is concerned, its dose is concerned, and what are the indications? The indications are onchocerciasis of all types, even with eye disease. It is still very good because one, it improves the skin, it lessens the itching, and it protects the eye from further damage. One important side effect, which is very specific to an area of Lawa Lawa. Lawa Lawa is another filarial disease, which does not cause harm, but it goes again through the eye and causes blindness, transient blindness. When the worm goes in front of the eye, under the cornea, you stop seeing for a minute or two, then after it goes, then recovers the eye. Otherwise, it causes no problem. And it is recovered from the blood, Lawa Lawa. It's been noted in Cameroon that the people who have heavy infection of Lawa Lawa, if given ivermectin for onchocerciasis, then they develop very serious side effects, encephalitis, and people lost their life because of this. This is why people develop a test, what we call RAP-LAWA, Rapid Lawa Estimate, just like REMO, Rapid Epidemiological Mapping. So RAP-LAWA will tell you if this area has a hyperendemicity of Lawa Lawa, then you don't treat. Other ways of treating it by reducing the Lawa infection and then giving onchocerciasis. Apart from this, onchocerciasis, ivermectin is a drug which is very well tolerated. Its half-life is about 18 hours, and it stays with metabolites for 3 days. One particular about ivermectin, it gets continually metabolized in the stools. If you go to the stools, recover ivermectin metabolized for 12 days, you can find it. So it's a long half-life, long drug. And why is this? Because maybe that it has an enterohepatic cycle which maintains the level of metabolized for some time. But whatever it is, the dose is once a year or 3 times a year, depend on the area. Okay, if you give more frequent, then the frequency will impact on the embryogenesis of the adult worm. Side effects are some degree of Mazotti reaction, which is for the killing. It's itching. Okay, you can have watery eyes, you can have joint swelling and tenderness of the tenderness of the joints and swelling, but otherwise it's very well tolerated. So this is ivermectin, the dose being 150 microgram per kilogram body weight, and because on the field weighing people and then calculating the dose is very we use the height, okay, and the pole is marked green, yellow, white. So if you stand and you are here, you take 3 drugs, easy, because this is done by non-medical. You just stand against the pole, and then you can see the drug written here. You have 3 drugs, you have three tablets, you have 2 tablets, and you have 4 tablets by height, okay, by the pole. Up to now, we don't have any research in patients, children who are below 5. So we don't give it to below 5 children or less than 90 centimeters height. But anyway, it's the disease in this category of people is less, and we don't have any problem with it because there is no evidence of research. Again, pregnancy, you have to be cautious not to give it to pregnant ladies. And this is a recommendation of the company. That it will cause maybe some abnormalities, but some inadvertently, pregnant ladies had ivermectin, and we observed them, and there are no side effects. So even if it happens, it is we don't know it, but precaution in pregnancy is very important. Okay, the 2 scientists, William Campbell and Satoshi Umura, were given in 2015 Nobel Prize for physiology or medicine. Okay, why do you think this is? Ivermectin has converted the life of 30 million people, have stopped the blindness of more than 500,000 people. Okay, children now are born in an onchocerciasis-free environment, and they are not in danger of getting blind. Okay, economically, these people are back to work and back to production. Women and others are now having fine skin, and they are socially accepted. I think, what else do you want from a human being to get Nobel Prize? This is a work which should be recommended. I would like just to end by the fact that onchocerciasis is a disease, a chronic disease caused by the nematodes Onchocerca volvulus. It is present in Africa mainly. It has 3 forms or 2 forms. The form with skin, generalized or localized like the soda. It causes blindness, not in all population, because the forest type blindness is less. The blindness is mainly in the savanna region, and we have certain types localized onchocerciasis like the soda in Abu Hamad region and in Yemen region with no blindness. But we have seen the pathology developing in the skin, the worm and the vector, which is the black fly, very active vector, and how by ivermectin you can convert this disease simply by giving a drug once a year. In mass chemotherapy, uh, the drug is given by CDDs, which are community drug distributor. These are volunteers. They just take the ball and take the drug, and house to house they give the drug. And this is justifiable because this is an area where there is more than 40% chance that people are harboring the parasite. Okay, so it's mass chemotherapy given, and at one time, Epoch was distributing ivermectin once a year for 90 million African population. And by that, they have cleared a lot because the side benefit is you are also treating ascaris and intestinal work. So this is one of the benefits of ivermectin. So in conclusion, please remember the research part, which have really revolutionized the life of people. Remember the Sudanese pioneers who have developed a lot of research in onchocerciasis and have been in the front line of papers and discoveries of onchocerciasis. With that, I would like to close and see you next week, inshallah. Okay. ساعة.